The electric chair or lethal injection, that is one of the few choices left for the 171 men on Ohio's death row. For their victims, there are no choices left and there can be no appeals. Tonight, as we wrap up a special report on the death penalty in Ohio, we take a look at why the judicial system allows those who are sent to death row to spend so much time fighting for their lives, and what is life like when you are a dead man waiting.
It's more mental than physical. Being locked up, they're not whips and chains, they're not starving, it's bread and water. But mentally, you die a little bit every day.
Fred Treesh is a dead man waiting, destined to die in Ohio's electric chair. Like the other 170 death row inmates inside the Mansfield prison, he never leaves his cell unless he is in chains. Treesh spends up to 23 hours a day locked inside this 10 by 12 foot room. The toilet and even the shower are inside his cell. His meals come through the slot in the door. Death row inmates are allowed television sets and stereos if they or their families pay for them. From his cell, he can see the small cage that is the only indoor recreation area. Once a week, he will be led to a similar outdoor cage, but 95% of his time is spent here. Fred Treesh has a lot of time to think.
There's probably not an aspect of my life that hasn't been reviewed a couple hundred times. Sure, we get TVs and typewriters and radios and on, but imagine if you were stuck in your bedroom at home 20 hours a day. That would get old.
But while they are waiting to die, Treesh and the other death row inmates also have access to a law library and a lot of time to work on the appeals that might save their lives.
We supply them with the lawyers, we supply them with a law library, we supply them with plenty of time to look at it. Quite frankly, I would suspect that they're better informed about the cases until we did our case study than we were.
Attorney General Betty Montgomery's staff last year conducted the first ever review of every death row case in Ohio. What she found is startling. Case files that have simply been forgotten. Inmates who had been languishing on death row for up to 14 years, while their cases go through a 23-step state and federal appeal process that takes a minimum of 10 years and costs Ohio taxpayers at least $1 million. And yet everyone is still waiting for someone to die.
The law requires that there is a death penalty in Ohio and that the system has been held up to ridicule for years. And as a result, the public has begun to distrust its own court system, and that is very dangerous.
Society should see it, should see how inhumane the electric chair is.
But look at the way the victims have died. They died cruel deaths too. They died in horrific ways too. So maybe that is justice.
Maybe people should be killed the way they killed, you know? To me, that's more personal justice than it is society as a whole. You know, that would be like if you killed my sister, then I'd go out and kill you.
Death row inmates can choose between the electric chair and lethal injection.
In my own opinion, that's cruel and unusual punishment. Tell me how I have to decide whether I want to die of electrocution or die of lethal injection. My God, I want to die of natural causes. I'm sorry, you know, I'm not going to sign that paper.
You know that means you'll get the electric chair then.
So be it. I'm not making that choice.
Those who refuse to make the choice will get the chair. When the time comes, inmates can also decide if they want their family members to watch them die.
Absolutely not. I couldn't look out through there and see my mom and have her know that she's getting ready to face that.
Who would you want there? Anyone?
A priest.
I regret a lot of things, really. It's not just yet drugs and alcohol. You know, there's the lifestyle I lived also. I was always a violent person. I used to love fighting, getting in fights and stuff like that.
What do you miss most about your freedom?
Women.
But it looks like there will be no more women for Robert Van Hook. He has been on death row nearly 11 years and is close to the end of his appeal process. Van Hook, like every other death row inmate we talk to, says he can trace his troubles to drugs and alcohol.
You think you might be able to stop in the future. You think you can be able to measure it and just do a little bit here and a little bit there. But you're looking at a bona fide alcoholic and drug fanatic. And I can tell you that it's not. It's going to get worse. And it's going to lead to violence and chaos. You could jeopardize losing your whole family. You could jeopardize your life. You could end up like me.
If you laid some crack on that table and said I could do that or go home, I'm doing that crack. If I had the choice of unlimited cocaine or my freedom, I'm going to smoke myself to death.
But for now, another kind of death is the only promise the future holds.
They could come right now, you know, I'd go along with them. A lot of these guys, you're going to see them kick, scream, holler. Why? I'm paying my debt to society. And this is what they say I have to do. I don't agree, but if that's what they're saying, then do it.
There are 3 men on death row in Ohio whose cases are in the 6th Circuit Court of Appeals. That is just one level below the final stop on the appeal process, the U.S. Supreme Court. Betty Montgomery refuses to speculate on when an execution might take place. Some experts say Ohio will lead a man to the death house within the next 2 years, but those same experts were saying that same thing 2 years ago. So for now, Ohio's dead men will continue to wait.